that I used in Melinda and Melinda, and then I liked him so much I used him again in another picture whose title escapes me, and then I used him in Vicky Cristina Barcelona. He played the guy, part of the couple that visits them, and they meet them on the street, and they go out with them. They know them from New York, and they go out with them to a nightclub or a place. And I called him and asked him if he would do the narration, and he did a very, very good job. But and his name will come to me, but.
Woody?
Yes.
It's Chris Messina.
Sorry.
Go ahead. It's Chris Messina, the actor.
No. Chris Messina was in Vicky Cristina played the other guy. He played gee, her name escapes me at the moment. Rebecca Hall's fiance. No, this was the guy. They come and visit them. They just have a brief scene in the movie. It'll come to me. I'll if you're there tonight, I will let you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Question over here, then the lady here, and then this mic travels over there.
Woody, Roger Friedman from the Daily News in New York. We're going to see you on screen again soon. The last few movies, you haven't been in them.
Only because there's no good part. For years, I played the romantic lead. And then I couldn't play it anymore because I got too old to play it. And it's no fun just, not playing the guy who gets the girl. So, unless I can think of some way to do it, no. But if I can think of a part for myself or a way to get the girl, then you can imagine how frustrating it is when I do these movies with Scarlett Johansson and Naomi Watts, and the other guys get them. And I'm the director. I'm the, that old guy over there is the director. He's I don't like that. I like to be the one that sits opposite them in the restaurant and looks in their eyes and lies to them. And so, if I can't do that, it's not that much fun to play in the movies.
Ma'am.
Hello, I'm Eileen Wong from Hong Kong Cable Television. I enjoy the movie a lot, especially the humor about fortune telling. So my question is to Mr. Allen, and maybe anyone who would like to answer that on the panel too. Do you believe in fortune telling, or have you ever seen one, or what part of the future that you would be most interested to know?
I would love to hear everyone's opinion on this before I state mine. Lucy, do you believe in fortune telling?
I'm sorry.
I do.
I was doing my semaphore in swan lake bit here.
Oh, you look like you were swimming.
I don't believe in fortune. I think sometimes if you hear something and it's good or it's bad, and then you have it in your head, you manifest it. So, if you hear you're going to meet someone wonderful and fall in love, you've got that in your, is this the person? And you make it happen. And on the flip side, if they say life's going to be pretty miserable for you, you manifest that as well. So, no, I like to think that I'm in control of my own fate.
Okay. Josh, what do you think?
Hey, is the title, I have a question for you, Woody. Is the title refer to that or to the Grim Reaper?
Both. The title is ambiguous. In the United States, when someone says you will meet a tall, dark stranger, the woman feels thrilled, and then you think you're going to meet Antonio Banderas or Josh or Warren Beatty or somebody that's a tall, dark stranger. But there is another meaning to it because, there is a tall, dark stranger that we all eventually meet, as Josh says in the movie, that we don't really want to meet. And so the title is ambiguous. So, Naomi, do you believe in fortune tellers?
He was so interested. Not really, no. I'm more of a pragmatic thinker. Having said that, I have seen them, in various settings and periods of my life, usually when I'm miserable. And yeah, if you've gone through a heartbreak, you want to know if there's going to be another love, or if you've lost someone, or I don't know. And, you know, sometimes it might be a side of a road situation. Sometimes it's someone that's really expensive. And I think what Lucy said is you believe what you want to believe and you hold on to it. And, you know, and then you sort of, I'm not a big believer, to be honest. But.
Gentlemen?
I'm not a believer, but I love my character because she does believe, and she's ingenuous and innocent and optimistic enough to believe, and I love that in the character. And that was just quite tricky to play. I had to remove my own scepticism and make her absolutely a believer.
And I do not believe in any of it. I find it all quackery and humbug and charlatanism, and they take your money and they promise you that they can predict the future or tell you, you know, it's all silly and nonsense. And, you know, in a movie, maybe funny, but in real life, you know, it's $1 billion industry that bilks people out of their fortune and takes advantage of them while they're vulnerable.
Sir, then the gentleman over there.
Rodrigo from O Globo Brazil. It's a question for Mr. Brolin, a question for Mr. Allen. For Mr. Brolin, recently you've been collecting experiences with masters of directions, Mr. Allen, Ridley Scott, Oliver Stone. I would like to know how those experiences are influencing your view, changing your view of cinema, and if it's inspiring you to direct. To Mr. Allen, since you've been shooting in Europe recently...
Can we take it one step at a time, Mr. Brolin?
How it's changed my perception of cinema? Yeah, I realized it could be better. You know, I've worked. There was one point where I was doing films that I didn't care for so much. Not that I felt like I was better than the film at all. I just would see the film and it wasn't gratifying to me. So I stopped doing that and I started landscaping for a while. And then I got into day trading, and I was day trading for 3.5 years. So, and from out of necessity, money, you know, and then things changed, I guess, with the Coen brothers. But what I find in the through line is the lack of pretense. There's an extreme lack of pretense. You know, I almost used to feel like talking about acting. You know, the perception of actors can only talk about themselves, which is, you know, almost true, but you know, and almost a shame in talking about movie making and storytelling and acting and this and that. I don't feel that anymore because I'm around these guys who love storytelling. They love talking about, you know, it's whether they're making movies or whether it's cowboys sitting around a campfire trying to outdo each other. It's the same kind of feeling to me, and so there's a real pride, a humble pride that I have in working with these guys that love to tell stories. It's their lifeline, you know. It's their food, it's their nourishment, and I love to be around that.
And your second part was?
To Mr. Allen, since you've been shooting films in Europe, I would like to know your knowledge from new European movie makers. Who are the movie makers from Europe that you admire, besides Bergman?
I admire all the, not just European, but Asian and South American filmmakers that send their films, that get their films distributed in the United States. The films that come out generally in the United States from American studios, for the most part, are not of great interest to me. But when I'm looking to see a film on the weekend or something, it's almost always a Mexican film or a Chinese film or an Iranian film or a European film, and so I like all the people that that everybody knows in the United States, because I get the same films that everyone gets. You know, I only get the ones that for some reason manage to get over to the United States. I'm sure there are other good ones that are unlucky and don't get distribution, but I like the ones that come over to the United States and do get distribution.
We'll take a few more questions. The gentleman here and then the gentleman there. Go ahead.
Peter Palhut, German television. 2 questions for Mr. Allen. I'm here.
Over there.
Over here. To your, yeah. Okay. And to your left. To your left. I was... I was wondering how much making films in England has changed or has influenced your way of filmmaking, and the other is to follow up on my colleague from London, the voice who's telling the story. I'd be curious to know, who is it, not just the actor, but who is telling us this story? Is this some greater entity, or is it your alter ego? Who is doing that?
Okay, well, excuse me, I have a cold. The first answer is that I'm not influenced by doing films in London. I like it, it's pleasurable, but the films that I make in London, I could make in New York. They would just be more expensive to make in New York. But it's a pleasure to work in London because the summers are cool, the skies are gray, good for photography. And, you know, they have a wonderful crews and wonderful actors. So I like making films there, but it doesn't influence me. If I couldn't make them there, I could make them in New York very easily, but just for more money. As far as the voice goes, you know, many of my films, I noticed this true also of Billy Wilder, a director whose work I liked a lot. Many of my films have a novel quality to them, a bookish quality to them. And probably if I wasn't making films, I would be writing books. And I always think in terms of the guy in the book who's telling the story. You know, I'm just used to it. When I was a cabaret comedian, I came out and I spoke to the audience, and I always think in my films, not that every one of them has a narrator, but many of them do, because I always think, I never think of who it is, but I always think that there is some omniscient presence that tells the story, and it makes me feel comfortable, and maybe I should have written books and not films, I don't know. But it's the omniscient narrator.
The lady here, the gentleman there.
Hi, I'm Fulvia Caprara from La Stampa, Italian newspaper. I'm here. Hi. I wish to know, we were talking before about that, but before that there is to become older. And I think that in this film we speak about this theme too. And I wish to know from you something about getting older. Thank you.
Oh.
Who's getting old here?
Older. Well, first I'll say what I have to say, and then I'd like some other comments by the guys up here. I find it a lousy deal. There is no advantage in getting older. You know, I'm 74 now. You don't get smarter, you don't get wiser, you don't get more mellow, you don't get more kindly. Nothing good happens. Your back hurts more, you get more indigestion, your eyesight isn't as good, you need a hearing aid. It's a bad business getting old. And I would advise you not to do it if you can avoid it. I see no, it doesn't have a romantic quality, you know, elderly characters in movies like Gramps, you know, or Pop, the backstage doorman or something, and they're wise. It's better to be younger and get the girl in the movie, you know. Now, how do you feel about any of this? You don't have to face this for, you know, at least 2 years.
Well, in the part I'm playing, it's and I'm get married to Anthony Hopkins, who is obsessed with his age, and he thinks he feels younger than he is, and he meets me, and it's an embodiment of sort of youth and where he thinks he should be. And I have absolutely no problem with, you know, huge age gaps in relationships, but I think you hope as you get older that I think you get wiser, and that I think to be in a relationship with someone a lot younger, because that's how you'd like to be, is kind of unevolved. So I think,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, he dumped you.
Ladies
in the
to the
movie
rescue.
to go with her. How